So, Liverpool are about to sign Florian Wirtz. Oh, we may well have done by the time you're watching this. The silky German is going to become not only Liverpool's record signing, but the Premier League's most expensive signing of all time. It's a real statement of intent from Liverpool, a sign that they want to maintain their position at the top of the league table, and it's not a character move for a club typically known for building superstars rather than buying them. You know, Mohamed Salah, Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, Virgil van Dijk, Alisson Becker, Fabinho, Andy Robertson, I could list more. You know, they're all players who, when they were signed, were seen as good, promising young players, but they weren't world class at that point. But it was under the leadership of Jurgen Klopp that those players would take that leap into becoming some of the best players in the world in their position. There was, however, one special case. One case where Liverpool bought the ready-made, world-class, in their pomp package to play for Liverpool. And if you ask any Liverpool fan at the minute about that player, they'll sit there and tell you about the what could have been, what should have been, the biggest what if in recent Liverpool memory. Arguably the most naturally gifted player to play under Jurgen Klopp. An unbelievably silky Spanish maestro who could run games from midfield like no other. But someone whose career at Anfield was always marred by niggling injuries and an inability to stay fit when we needed it most, preventing fans from consistently experiencing the greatness that he showed us in glimpses and moments. This is a story of Thiago Alcantara's Liverpool career. When Thiago arrived at Liverpool in September of 2020 for £20 million plus £5 million in add-ons, he brought with him the shine of European royalty. Fresh off winning the treble with Bayern Munich, he'd just completed the Champions League campaign in which he completed more passes than any other player in the competition, and he dominated the midfield in games against Chelsea, Barcelona and PSG in the final. For Liverpool, this was a shift in transfer strategy, a 29-year-old marquee signing with no resale value, but immense short-term upside. The aim was obvious: evolve the midfield to break down deeper blocks and reduce reliance on transition play and creativity from the wide areas. Jurgen Klopp hinted at this shift in interviews, expressing his admiration for Thiago's ability to control tempo. Fans were excited about the more possession-oriented Liverpool, one capable of controlling games in new ways. After all, the Reds had just won the Premier League with a hard-running engine room rather than these silky, on-the-ball midfielders. Thiago offered that different flavour, surgical yet subtle. His debut against Chelsea, where he came out at half-time and completed 75 passes, which is more than any other Chelsea player managed in the full 90. That 75 passes also broke pretty much every record there was for passes played in a single half by any player, and it was an immediate glimpse of the promise that had fans and pundits alike salivating at what was to come from Thiago at Liverpool. But disaster struck soon after. After a game or two missed with coronavirus, Thiago suffered a significant injury in his return. After being on the receiving end of a reckless red card challenge from Richarlison in the Merseyside derby, Thiago missed 17 games with an knee injury. His adaption was delayed, his rhythm interrupted, and when he returned, Liverpool were in crisis. The midfield was makeshift due to an unprecedented defensive injury crisis, with Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez and Joel Matip all ruled out for the season, with Fabinho and Henderson having to drop back into play centre-back, which has caused a ripple effect elsewhere in the team. As such, not only was the defence struggling, but the press was uncoordinated. Instead of joining a machine, Thiago walked into its ruins. Despite the disjointed setup, Thiago still managed to show his class in moments. From January to May, he made 24 league appearances, he started to assert more influence as Liverpool fought to salvage a top 4 finish. His late season form was particularly impressive, especially when Liverpool needed it most. In a 2-0 win against Southampton in May 2021, he not only scored a sublime low strike, his first Liverpool goal, but he also completed 94% of his 75 passes and made 10 ball recoveries, the most out of anyone. His tackling numbers often flew under the radar. In the Premier League that season, Thiago averaged 2.6 tackles and 1.3 interceptions per 90. Those are elite numbers for a creative midfielder, but the perception was mixed. Critics said he slowed Liverpool down, but the reality was he was being asked to steady a team with no foundation to build off. His standout performance was arguably the 4-2 win over Manchester United at Old Trafford in May. He controlled the tempo, having 95 touches, completing 90% of his passes, and bypassing United's midfield time and time again with clinical switches of play or direct balls through the lines. For the first time since his arrival, he looked truly settled. The only problem was it was game week 34. The injury that robbed him of 3 key months early in the season, paired with Liverpool's deeper defensive issues, meant Thiago was never really able to embed himself into the core identity of the team. He played just 24 league matches, starting 20 as Liverpool finished third, a minor miracle considering the mid-season collapse. But Thiago's first year was a case of adaption through adversity. In isolation, Thiago's first campaign wasn't really a failure, but in the context of what he could provide and what Liverpool needed, it was bittersweet. His average of 70 passes per game and 88% passing accuracy ranked not only amongst the best for Liverpool midfielders, but amongst the best for midfielders in the Premier League. He'd begun to influence matches more consistently in and around the final third as well, even though the numbers didn't necessarily show it, registering just 1 goal and 0 assists. But there was a problem. The season showed a worrying trend, the stop-start rhythm caused by injuries. Thiago had always had these injury concerns at Bayern, but the Premier League's intensity and Liverpool's injury crisis put enormous strain on him. The season ended with Liverpool securing Champions League qualification on the final day because Thiago had helped to steady the ship. But he hadn't changed the game in the way some people and some pundits had thought he might do. But hope remained. If Liverpool could stay fit and Thiago got a full pre-season under his belt, maybe the next season would finally unlock him. The 21-22 season was supposed to be Thiago's season. With Virgil van Dijk, Joel Matip and Jordan Henderson all returning from long-term injury, and with a proper pre-season under his belt, the conditions were finally ideal. Klopp built a more balanced midfield around him, now he had the options, often pairing him with Fabinho, sitting in the 6, and either Henderson or Naby Keita sitting on the right-hand side of midfield, whilst Thiago was given the left central midfield spot where he could do whatever he wanted. He had the licence to do what he needed to do. The aim was to keep Thiago fit and give him a central role in controlling games, especially in Europe. The Champions League group stage showed early signs of this strategy bearing fruit, with Thiago averaging 91 passes per 90 at a 91% success rate alongside 2.2 tackles per game, as well as a goal of the season contender against Porto. Early in the season though, he suffered a calf injury in September that ruled him out for 10 games. But this time, Liverpool adapted. He returned in November and was reintegrated into the side, but it wasn't until the spring of 2022 that Thiago hit his absolute peak in a Liverpool shirt. From March to May, Thiago was arguably the best midfielder in Europe. His role as a conductor was most evident in the 4-0 win against Manchester United in April. He completed 105 passes, which is more than the entire Manchester United midfield combined. He had a 95% passing accuracy and received a standing ovation from Anfield. It was a performance dripping with composure, vision, dominance, and Gary Neville on commentary said it best himself.
Actually, I'm watching Thiago and Salah do an interview here. Thiago was laughing when he came off. He was laughing at them all game. I don't normally swear on the Gary Neville podcast, but he took the out of Manchester United tonight, and that can be bleeped out, Martin, to be fair, for the older viewers.
Thiago's influence was also felt in cup competitions. In the FA Cup semi-final versus Manchester City, he was absolutely majestic, gliding past pressure, recycling possession and launching attacks from deep, including getting an assist for Sadio Mane's second of the day. That match solidified his importance in Jurgen Klopp's tactical evolution. Liverpool could now dominate with the ball as well as they could do without it. His passing range was unmatched, completing 9.3 progressive passes per 90 and 6.8 passes into the final third, elite numbers by anyone's standard. He also ranked among the top 5 midfielders in Europe for shot creating actions per 90. This wasn't just a deep line playmaker, he'd become Liverpool's new creative nucleus. Defensively, he complemented Fabinho perfectly. He made 2.4 tackles per 90 in the league, and his positioning often allowed Liverpool to stifle counter-attacks before they could even start. His awareness of space and pressure meant Liverpool could press higher with more confidence, knowing they had a bit more of a solid base behind them. Statistically, 21-22 was Thiago's best Liverpool season. 39 appearances in all comps, 2 goals, 5 assists, over 3,000 minutes played, but more than numbers can show, it was about feeling. When Thiago played, Liverpool were just different, smoother, smarter, more deliberate, more clinical, better. When Thiago was on that pitch, Liverpool felt like the best team on the planet. Liverpool nearly completed a historic quadruple that season, falling just short in the Premier League and the Champions League, but Thiago had firmly established himself as a central figure in this new-look, mature Liverpool. His Champions League final appearance summed him up. Despite pulling up with an injury in the warm-up, he insisted on playing through the pain against Real Madrid. He completed 90% of his passes and was one of the few players who looked composed on the night, even though according to former assistant manager Pep Lijnders, he couldn't even feel his feet. The season ended with 2 domestic cups and for Thiago it was validation. Given the right structure and health, he could elevate Liverpool's midfield into one of the best on the planet. Coming off the high of the nearly historic 21-22 season, the 22-23 season was expected to be another title push and another far European run. With Sadio Mane gone and Darwin Núñez arriving, there was an air of transition, but not decline. At least not yet. For Thiago, the mission was simple: stay fit, remain the conductor, and help usher in the next phase of Liverpool's evolution. He'd finally found the rhythm in the previous season. Now consistency was the goal. Klopp's system still relied on a midfield that could protect the high defensive line and recycle possession quickly, and Thiago was central to that. His unique ability to retain the ball under pressure, play vertical passes between the lines, and dictate the speed of attack was irreplaceable. But what Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool didn't anticipate was just how quickly the wheels would fall off the entire team this season. The midfield, once Liverpool's greatest weapon of intensity, became their Achilles heel. Jordan Henderson and Fabinho looked physically drained, and the younger options like Harvey Elliott, Fabio Carvalho and Curtis Jones were inconsistent, immature and untrustworthy. That left Thiago as the only midfielder consistently capable of linking defence and attack, but with age and injuries creeping in, expect them to do it all was never sustainable. His body reminded everyone of that reality early on. After starting the first league match of the season, a 2-2 draw with Fulham, he pulled up with a hamstring injury in the 51st minute, which would leave him out for 6 weeks. The season's tone was set. Another year of brilliance, interrupted by injury. When Thiago returned in September, he immediately brought calm to the chaos. In the 2-1 win over Ajax in the Champions League, he was outstanding, completing 91% of his passes, making 4 tackles and dictating tempo in a tight midfield battle. The difference with and without him was stark. In the games he played, Liverpool averaged 2.1 points per game. Without him, it was just 1.4. He was foundational for this team. His defensive numbers remained elite. In the Premier League, Thiago averaged 2.7 tackles, 1.9 interceptions and 8.4 ball recoveries per 90. Top tier metrics for a midfielder tasked with defensive duties, especially in an underperforming system. Offensively, while the numbers weren't produced, getting 0 goals and 1 assist this season, he consistently led Liverpool in progressive passes and passes into the final third. The impact was there, but his body couldn't handle it. His best run of form came in January, when Liverpool briefly flirted with a mid-season revival. In the FA Cup win against Wolves and the Premier League draw against Chelsea, he was our standout performer, completing over 90% of passes in both games, leading the team in recoveries and showing he could still beat pressure with a single movement or a disguised pass. But a hip flexor injury in February pretty much ended this season. He wouldn't start another game for Liverpool, featuring only off the bench in a couple of games. That one injury snowballed into several complications, and once again, Thiago became a ghost. Present in spirit, but missing on the pitch. In total, he made just 18 league appearances that season, starting 14 and playing just 1,225 minutes across all competitions. Liverpool finished the season in 5th that year, outside the Champions League spots, and for the first time since Jurgen Klopp took over, the team looked stale. The midfield was blamed, and rightly so. It lacked legs, creativity and reliability. In many ways, the season proved just how dependent this new-look Liverpool had become on a player like Thiago, and how poorly it functioned without him. The frustrating part for Liverpool fans was that he hadn't declined. Thiago hadn't declined. When he played, he was still clearly amongst the very best Liverpool had to offer. But the cost of those performances was physical breakdown. He was 32, and the Premier League had never been forgiven to players whose game time depended on rhythm and sharpness, especially a player like Thiago who could barely stay fit. The 22-23 campaign solidified a harsh truth. Liverpool failed to adequately back Thiago with compatible midfield partners. He needed energy around him, not aging legs or developing teenagers. The club's delayed midfield rebuild left Thiago exposed, overworked and ultimately sidelined, and while fans still revered him, a creeping sense of inevitability started to grow. Thiago's story at Liverpool would never be written in 4 seasons, but instead it'd be remembered for these cameos, moments and flashes of brilliance, and the next season would only confirm that. Entering the final year of his contract, there was uncertainty around Thiago's future. Liverpool had signed Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, Wataru Endo and Ryan Gravenberch, all midfielders who brought energy, verticality and technical skill, whilst Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, James Milner, Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain were all shipped out. A complete midfield overhaul. The long overdue rebuild had begun, but Thiago remained, the wise old head, now expected to be more of a luxury rotation piece than a week in week out starter. And Klopp spoke warmly about this role in pre-season. Thiago, we were told, was recovering from hip surgery and taking a cautious path to full fitness. We were first told he'd be available at the start of pre-season, then at the end of pre-season. But as the weeks turned into months, the updates grew quieter. He wasn't on the bench. He wasn't in training pictures. And by October, it was pretty obvious. Thiago wasn't part of the playing plan anymore. Behind the scenes, he remained influential. Players like McAllister and Jones spoke highly of his mentorship and guidance. But on the pitch, he wasn't available. Liverpool were evolving to a new-look team, driven by pressing, energy and transition play, a return to form. Ironically, the style that Thiago was brought in to turn away from. A brief return came in February 2024, 5 minutes against Arsenal, and it would be his first and only appearance of the season. And it would tragically end with another injury. Thiago left the pitch at full-time crutching his groin, and Klopp later admitted it was a relapse and hinted that his future was uncertain. It was the final chapter. Thiago officially left Liverpool at the end of the 23-24 season. There was no farewell appearance, rather a press release, warm words from Klopp, and appreciation from the fans in Anfield after the Wolves game. He departed having played just 98 games for Liverpool over 4 seasons, averaging fewer than 25 games a year. Statistically, his Liverpool career reads like a footnote. 3 goals and 6 assists over 7,000 minutes played. But numbers don't tell Thiago's story. What he brought was feel, control, tempo, vision. In a Liverpool team that before him was known for heavy metal football, Thiago was jazz. Thiago was soul. His best moments: the 90-minute masterclass against Manchester United, the stunner against Porto, the opening goal of his Liverpool career against Southampton, and that jaw-dropping semi-final display against City were enough to etch his name into Liverpool folklore. Not as a legend or an icon, but as a missed opportunity never fully realised. Football is cruelly beautiful. It gives you players like Thiago Alcantara, capable of absolute poetry and magic on the pitch, and yet deprives you of fully seeing them flourish. His time at Liverpool will be remembered as a stop-start story. What could have been, what should have been, but what never truly was. Still, for those who watch closely, those matches where Thiago ran the show were unforgettable. And ultimately, arguably more frustrating than seeing him get injured again. If you enjoyed this new type of video, leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this type of content. You know, I'm more than willing to do. You've got plenty of players that I'd love to have a nice little essay to talk about. So if you like this content, let me know in the comments. Leave a like, hit subscribe. Anyway, love yous, leave yous. Ta-ra, people. Ta-ra.